Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English in Advance. I'm Jessica, your host for today. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation in English, listening to native speakers chat with each other so easily, so effortlessly, and you felt a little bit lost? Maybe you understand the words, but the way they connect them, the little phrases they use, the rhythm of their conversation, it just feels different from the English you learned in a textbook. You might feel like you're on the outside, looking in, wishing you could join the conversation with the same confidence and natural flow. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know that you are in exactly the right place. Today, we are going on a journey together, a journey to transform your English from something you just know into something you can truly use. We are going to explore the art of everyday English conversation, focusing on how you can chat more like a native speaker. This isn't about learning thousands of new vocabulary words or complex grammar rules. Instead, it's about mastering the small, simple, but incredibly important phrases and habits that make conversations feel natural, friendly, and authentic. We'll dive into real-life stories and scenarios. From grabbing a coffee with a friend to making plans for the weekend, from sharing good news to politely disagreeing about a movie. By the end of our time together, you won't just be a learner of English. You'll be a more confident and natural participant in English conversations. So take a deep breath, relax, and get ready to unlock the secrets of everyday English chat. Let's begin. To start our journey, let's imagine a very common, very simple situation. Picture this. You're walking down the street on your way to work or to a class, and you suddenly see a friend or a colleague you know, someone named David. In a textbook, you might have learned to say, "Hello, David. How are you today?" And while that's perfectly correct, it sounds a little formal, a little stiff for a quick, unexpected meeting on the street. A native speaker would likely use something more casual and friendly. You might hear, "Hey, David, how's it going?" Or, "David, good to see you. What's up? Let's break those down." "How's it going?" is a very common, relaxed way of asking, "How are you?" The expected answer isn't a long, detailed story. Most of the time, people give a short, positive response, even if they're having a terrible day. David might reply, "Hey, pretty good, thanks. Heading to the office." Or, "Not bad, you." Or even, "Can't complain." Notice that these answers are brief and often lead to another question to keep the conversation moving. "What's up?" is even more casual. It's like saying, "What's new?" or "What's happening?" A typical response is, "Not much," or "Nothing much, just on my way too." This is what we call small talk. It's the light, friendly conversation that helps people connect without getting into deep, serious topics right away. Let's continue this little story. So you've said, "Hey, David, how's it going?" And he's replied, "Pretty good, thanks." Now it's your turn. You could say, "I'm fine, thank you." Again, it's correct, but a more natural response would be something like, "Yeah, doing well. Just grabbing a coffee before my meeting." This little piece of extra information about grabbing a coffee gives David something to respond to. It opens the door for the conversation to continue, even if only for another minute. He might say, "Oh, nice. Anywhere good?" Or, "Sounds like a good plan. Don't want to be sleepy in a meeting." This back and forth, this sharing of small details, is the very heart of casual chat. The weather is another classic small talk topic. You could add, "Crazy weather we're having, isn't it?" This is a great phrase because it's a statement that invites agreement. David will almost certainly agree, saying something like, "Tell me about it." It was freezing this morning. Tell me about it is a fantastic idiom that means I completely agree with you. It doesn't actually mean you want the person to tell you more. It's a way of showing strong agreement. Now, because this is a quick meeting on the street, you need to know how to end the conversation smoothly. You can't just turn and walk away. We use specific phrases to signal that we need to leave. You could say, well, I should get going. Don't want to be late. Or, anyway, I'll let you go. It was great seeing you. The words well and anyway are often used as signals that the conversation is about to close. David would then respond with something like, you too. Have a good one. Or all right, catch you later. Have a good one is a friendly way to say have a good day, and catch you later is a very casual way to say goodbye. So, let's practice this entire mini conversation. Imagine you are the one seeing David. I'll be David. You start. You might say, hey David, how's it going? And I'll respond, oh hey, pretty good, thanks. You? Now it's your turn to answer and add a small detail. You could say, doing well, just grabbing a coffee before I head to the library. And I'd say, nice. Sounds like a productive day. Well, I'll let you go. Don't want to hold you up. And you would finish by saying, all right, you too. Catch you later. See how that flowed? It was short, friendly, and natural. Neither person felt awkward. This is the first building block of chatting like a native speaker. It's about using these soft, casual phrases to make the other person feel comfortable and to keep the conversation moving smoothly from beginning to end. Now that we've mastered the art of a quick hello on the street, let's move to a slightly different scenario, making plans with a friend. This is something we do all the time, and the language we use can make a big difference. Let's imagine a character named Chloe, who wants to invite her friend Liam to see a movie. She could just text him, do you want to see a movie on Saturday? Which is clear, but a little direct. It's more common to soften the invitation, to make it sound more like a suggestion and less like a demand. Chloe might start the conversation by asking about Liam's availability first. She could say, hey Liam, how are you doing? Got any plans for the weekend? This is a great opening because it's friendly and it checks if he's free before she even makes the invitation. It prepares the ground. Liam might reply, hey Chloe, I'm good. Not really, my weekend is pretty open. Why, what's up? That phrase, why, what's up, is his signal to her that he knows she has something to suggest. Now Chloe can make her move. Instead of a direct command, she can use softer language. A great way to do this is to use phrases like, I was wondering if, or would you be interested in? So Chloe could say, well, I was wondering if you'd be interested in seeing that new sci-fi movie everyone's talking about. Maybe on Saturday? This sounds so much more polite and less demanding than, do you want to see a movie? It gives Liam an easy way to say no if he wants to, without feeling rude. Let's say Liam is excited about the idea. He could respond with, oh yeah, I've been wanting to see that. I'd love to. The phrase I'd love to is a very enthusiastic and common way to accept an invitation. It shows genuine interest. But what if Liam wasn't interested, or if he was busy? This is where polite disagreement or refusal is a key skill. He probably wouldn't just say no. That would sound too harsh. Instead, he might say something like, oh, that sounds fun, but I think I'm actually going to have a quiet weekend at home. The structure here is important. Positive comment, that sounds fun, followed by but, and then the reason for refusal. Another option is, I'd love to, but I'm afraid I've already made other plans. The phrase, I'm afraid, is used here not because he is scared, but as a polite way to introduce bad news or a refusal. For our story, let's imagine Liam accepted. He said, I'd love to. The conversation isn't over yet. Now they need to figure out the details, like the time and place. Chloe could suggest, awesome! How about the 7 p.m. showing at the cinema downtown? The phrase, how about, is perfect for making suggestions. Liam might agree, sounds good to me, or that works for me. Or he might need to adjust the plan slightly. He could say, 7 p.m. is a little early for me. Could we do the later one around 9? The phrase, could we do, is a polite way to ask for a change. Once they've agreed on the time and place, it's important to confirm the plan. Chloe might say, great. So, Saturday at 9 p.m. at the downtown cinema. I'll meet you there? This confirmation prevents any misunderstanding, and Liam would reply, perfect. It's a date. See you then. The phrase, it's a date, is a friendly, informal way to confirm a plan with a friend. It doesn't necessarily mean a romantic date. Now, I want you to pause and think about this. How do you usually make plans in English? Do you use these kinds of soft, indirect phrases? Try it next time. Instead of, let's meet at 5, try, how about we meet around 5? Instead of, do you want to come? Try, I was wondering if you'd like to come. These small changes will make you sound much more natural and considerate, which is a huge part of chatting like a native speaker. Let's move on to another essential daily interaction, ordering food and drinks. This can be a source of anxiety for many English learners because it happens quickly and you feel pressure to speak clearly. Let's follow a character named Maya as she goes into a busy cafe. The first thing she needs to do is get the barista's attention. If there's a line, she'll just wait her turn. But if the barista is busy behind the counter, a simple excuse me or just making eye contact with a smile is enough. When the barista says, "Hi, what can I get for you?" or "Hello, how can I help?" it's Maya's turn to order. There are a few very common phrases for this. She could say, "Can I get a large latte, please?" Or, "I'll have a medium cappuccino." Using "can I get" or "I'll have" is much more common and natural sounding than saying, "I want a large latte." "I want" can sound a little demanding, almost like a child. Adding "please" at the end is always a good idea to sound polite. Now, what if Maya has a question or wants to customize her order? This is where many learners get nervous. Let's say she's not sure if they have oat milk. She can ask, "Do you have oat milk?" or "Do you guys do oat milk?" The phrase, "Do you guys do?" is a very informal and friendly way to ask if a business offers a certain product or service. The barista might reply, "Yes, we do." Maya can then continue her order. "Great. Can I get that latte with oat milk then, please?" Now let's imagine she's also hungry and looking at the sandwiches. She sees one but isn't sure what's inside. She can point and ask, "Sorry, what's in the Chicken Club sandwich?" The barista will list the ingredients. This is a perfectly normal question to ask, so don't ever feel shy about it. Let's say Maya decides to get it. Her full order might be, "Okay, so I'll have the large latte with oat milk and 1 Chicken Club sandwich, please." It's helpful to summarize your order at the end. The barista will then usually ask, "Is that for here or to go?" This means, "Will you eat it in the cafe or take it away?" Maya could answer, "To go, please." The barista will give her the total. That'll be $12.50. But what if there's a problem? Let's imagine a different scenario. Maya gets her order, sits down, and realizes they gave her a regular coffee instead of a latte. It can be intimidating to complain, but there are polite ways to do it. She could go back to the counter and say, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, but I think there might be a mistake. I ordered a latte and I think this is a regular coffee." Starting with, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, but," makes the complaint much softer. It shows that you're not angry, you just want to correct a simple error. The phrase, "I think there might be a mistake," is also much more polite than saying, "You gave me the wrong drink." In most cases, the barista will apologize and fix the problem immediately. Thinking about these situations in advance can really build your confidence. Let's do a quick practice. Imagine you're in a cafe. I'm the barista. "Hi there, what can I get for you today?" Now, you try ordering a medium iced tea and ask if you can get it with no sugar. You could say, "Hi, can I get a medium iced tea, please? Is it possible to get it without sugar?" See? It's all about using these polite and common phrases. The more you practice them, the more automatic they will become, and the more confident you'll feel in these daily situations. So far, we've talked about quick hellos and making plans, but what about having a slightly longer conversation? A very common question that friends or family ask each other is, "How was your day?" The standard, boring answer is "good." But that's a conversation killer. It doesn't give the other person anything to respond to. To chat like a native, you need to learn how to expand on that simple question. Let's listen to a conversation between two roommates, Anna and Ben. Anna comes home from work and sees Ben on the sofa. She asks, "Hey, how was your day?" Instead of just "good," Ben could say, "It was pretty busy actually, but good overall. I finally finished that report I was stressed about." This is a perfect answer. It starts with a general feeling, pretty busy, gives a positive conclusion, good overall, and then adds a specific detail. "I finally finished that report." This specific detail is a gift to the other person. It gives Anna something to ask about. She can now say, "Oh, that's great. You've been working on that for ages. How does it feel to be done?" This is how a real conversation develops. It's a cycle of sharing a detail and then asking a question about that detail. Let's explore another possible answer from Ben. What if his day wasn't so good? He probably wouldn't just say, "It was bad." That can sound a bit negative and might make the other person uncomfortable. He might use softer language. For instance, "A, it was a bit of a long day, to be honest." The sound "a" is a common way to show something was just okay, not great. A bit of a long day sounds less negative than a bad day. The phrase "to be honest" is often added to signal that you're sharing your true, slightly negative feelings. Now, Anna's response is crucial. She needs to show she's listening and cares. She could say, "Oh no, why? What happened?" This invitation allows Ben to share more if he wants to. He might say, "It was just one of those days. The train was late, and then I had back-to-back meetings all afternoon. I'm exhausted." Back-to-back meetings is a great phrase meaning one meeting immediately after another with no break. By sharing these specific reasons, he's not just complaining, he's telling a small story about his day. Anna can show empathy by saying something like, "Ugh, that sounds draining." "Well, at least you're home now. Put your feet up." "That sounds draining" is a wonderful phrase to show you understand how the other person feels. Let's think about a positive scenario again. What if Ben had a really great day? He wouldn't just say, "It was great." He'd add some excitement and a detail. It was actually amazing. You're not going to believe what happened. This is a fantastic way to start because it builds suspense. Anna is now hooked. What? Tell me, she'll say, and Ben can share his story. So, in our team meeting, my boss announced that I got the promotion. I'm officially the new project manager. This is big news, and it came from a simple question. How was your day? Now it's your turn to practice. The next time someone asks you about your day, I challenge you not to say good. Try to use this formula, a general feeling plus a specific detail. For example, it was pretty relaxing. I went for a nice walk in the park after lunch. Or, it was a little stressful, to be honest. I had a computer problem that took forever to fix. By doing this, you're not just answering a question. You're starting a conversation. You're inviting the other person into your world. And that is the true essence of connection and chatting like a native. Now let's explore a topic that requires a bit of social grace: giving and receiving compliments. A compliment is when you say something nice about someone. It could be about their appearance, something they own, or something they've done. In many cultures, this is straightforward, but in English-speaking cultures, there's a certain way we do it that can feel a bit like a dance. Let's imagine our character, Sarah, meets her friend Emily at a cafe. Emily is wearing a new jacket. Sarah really likes it. She could just say, "I like your jacket." That's fine, but to make it sound more genuine and enthusiastic, she could be more specific. She might say, "Wow, I love your jacket. That color is amazing on you." By being specific, that color, and adding enthusiasm, "Wow." The compliment feels much more sincere. Another way to phrase it is, "That's a really great jacket. Where did you get it?" Asking a question like, "Where did you get it?" is a very common follow-up to a compliment about clothing or an object. It shows you're genuinely interested. Now let's look at how Emily should respond. This is where it can get tricky for learners. In some cultures, you are supposed to be very modest and deny the compliment. But in English, if you just say, "No, it's old and ugly," it can make the other person feel awkward, as if you're rejecting their kind words. The most common and polite response is to simply accept the compliment with a smile and a thank you. Emily could say, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad you like it." Or, "Thanks. I just got it last week." A very common thing to do after saying thank you is to add a little piece of information about the item. For example, "Thank you. It was on sale. I got such a good deal." Sharing that it was a bargain is a very common, slightly humble way to accept a compliment in countries like the UK or the US. It's like you're saying, "Thanks, but I wasn't extravagant." Another option is to return the compliment. After Sarah says she loves the jacket, Emily could say, "Thanks so much. Hey, I love what you've done with your hair, by the way. It looks great." Returning the compliment shows that you appreciate their kindness and you notice nice things about them too. Let's consider a different kind of compliment, one about skill or achievement. Imagine a colleague, Tom, has just given a fantastic presentation. You want to tell him he did a great job. You could go up to him afterwards and say, "Tom, that was a great presentation." To make it stronger, be specific. "Tom, your presentation was brilliant. The way you explained the data was so clear." This is much more meaningful because it tells Tom exactly what you appreciated. How should Tom respond? Again, he shouldn't deny it by saying, "No, it was terrible." That would be false modesty. He could say, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate that." Or, if he wants to be a bit more humble and share the credit, he could say, "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without the team's help." This is a very professional and gracious way to accept a compliment in a work setting. Now it's your turn to think. The next time you notice something you like about a friend or colleague, try giving them a specific compliment. "I really enjoyed the meal you cooked. The spices were perfect." Or, "You explained that problem so well in the meeting. I finally understand it." And when you receive a compliment, remember the simple formula: smile, say thank you, and maybe add a small positive detail. This social dance of compliments is a key part of building friendly relationships through conversation. One of the most challenging but important skills in any language is learning how to express your opinion, and even more difficult, how to disagree politely. In real life, people don't always agree, and conversations where everyone has the same opinion can be quite boring. The interesting chats often happen when people have different points of view. The key is to share your opinion without sounding aggressive or rude. Let's imagine our friends, Chloe and Liam, have just come out of the cinema. They saw that sci-fi movie they planned to see. Chloe loved it. She might start by saying, "Wow, that was an amazing movie. I thought the special effects were incredible." To express an opinion, we often use phrases like, "I think," "I feel that," or "in my opinion." Chloe used "I thought." Liam, however, didn't enjoy it as much. He needs to find a way to disagree with Chloe without making her feel bad for liking it. He wouldn't say, "You're wrong. It was a terrible movie." That's far too direct and confrontational. Instead, he can use a technique of partial agreement or softening his language. He might start by finding something he can agree with. For example, "Yeah, the special effects were pretty cool, I'll give you that." The phrase "I'll give you that" is a great way to concede a point to someone. After this partial agreement, he can introduce his different opinion using words like "but" or "however." So he could continue, "But to be honest, I found the story a little weak." This is a much softer way to disagree. He's not attacking Chloe's opinion, he's just sharing his own perspective on a different aspect of the movie, the story. Another powerful technique is to use phrases that make your opinion sound less like a fact. Instead of, "The story was weak," he said, "I found the story a little weak." Other phrases that do this are, "It seemed to me that," or "I guess I just felt like." For example, "I guess I just felt like the characters weren't very well developed." This phrasing makes it clear that this is his personal feeling, not a universal truth. Let's continue their discussion. Chloe might be surprised. "Really? I actually thought the main character was fascinating." Liam can then explain his reasoning further, still using polite language. "I can see why you'd say that, but for me, I just couldn't connect with him. I didn't really understand his motivations." Phrases like, "I see your point," or "I can see why you'd say that" are incredibly useful. They show that you are listening to the other person and respecting their opinion, even if you don't share it. This is the core of a healthy debate or discussion. You listen, you acknowledge their point, and then you state your own. Throughout the conversation, they can use phrases to check for understanding, like, "You know what I mean?" or simply, "Right?" It's a way of keeping the conversation collaborative, even when they disagree. Let's practice. Imagine a friend says, "I think learning English is all about memorizing grammar rules." You disagree. Instead of saying, "No, it's not," how could you phrase it more politely? You could try. I see what you mean. Grammar is definitely important, but I feel like practicing speaking is just as crucial, you know? This response shows respect for their idea before introducing your own. Mastering this skill of polite disagreement will open up a whole new world of interesting and deep conversations for you in English. Life is full of moments where we need a little help from others. Asking for a favor, which is asking someone to do something for you, is a common part of our daily interactions. But it can feel awkward. We don't want to seem demanding or impose on other people's time. Just like with making invitations, the key is to use soft, polite, and often indirect language. Let's create a scenario with our character, Ben. Ben has just bought a new bookshelf, but it's very heavy, and he can't lift it up the stairs to his apartment by himself. He needs to ask his neighbor, a friendly guy named Mark, for help. Ben wouldn't just knock on the door and say, "Hey Mark, carry my bookshelf upstairs." That would be extremely rude. Instead, he needs to approach it carefully. First, he'll start with a friendly greeting and maybe some small talk. He knocks on the door, and when Mark opens it, Ben says, "Hey Mark, how's it going?" Sorry to bother you. Starting with "sorry to bother you" immediately shows that Ben knows he is interrupting Mark, and he respects his time. Next, Ben needs to introduce the favor. A very common and polite way to do this is to use a phrase like, "I was wondering if I could ask you a huge favor," or "I have a bit of a favor to ask you." This prepares the other person. They now know a request is coming. Mark will likely respond with something like, "Sure, what's up?" Or, "Of course, what do you need?" Now Ben can explain the situation. He might say, "Well, I just bought this bookshelf, but it's much heavier than I realized, and I can't get it up the stairs on my own. I was wondering if you might have a spare 5 minutes to help me carry it up." Notice the phrasing here. "I was wondering if you might have" is very indirect and polite. Using words like might or could possibly softens the request. He also minimized the request by saying a spare 5 minutes, which makes the favor sound small and quick, even if it might take a bit longer. This makes it easier for Mark to say yes. Now, it's very important to give the other person an easy way out. You should always make it clear that it's okay for them to say no. Ben could add, "But no worries at all if you're busy." I can totally understand. This phrase, "no worries at all if you're busy," is crucial. It takes all the pressure off Mark. If Mark is busy, he can now say so without feeling guilty. He might say, "Oh, I'd love to help, Ben, but I'm actually in the middle of a work call right now. Maybe in about an hour, but let's say Mark is free and happy to help." He would say, "Yeah, of course. Not a problem at all. Let me just grab my shoes." The phrase, "not a problem at all," is a very common and friendly way to agree to a favor. After they've moved the bookshelf, Ben must remember to show his gratitude. He can't just say thanks and close the door. He should be more effusive. "Mark, thank you so much. I honestly couldn't have done that without you. I really owe you one." The idiom "I owe you one" is a fantastic way to thank someone for a favor. It means you will be happy to return the favor and help them in the future. He could even offer something tangible. "Can I buy you a coffee or a beer sometime to say thanks?" This is a wonderful gesture that strengthens the friendly relationship with his neighbor. So the next time you need to ask for a favor, remember these steps. Start politely. Use soft and indirect language. Give them an easy way out, and always show your gratitude afterwards. Conversations aren't always about movies or the weather. Sometimes we have to share important news, both good and bad. The way we introduce and react to this news is a big part of emotional intelligence in communication. Let's start with good news. Imagine Anna got that promotion at work we talked about earlier. She's excited to tell her best friend, Maria. She might call her and say, "Hey, Maria, you are not going to believe the news I have," or "Guess what just happened?" These openings create excitement and suspense. Maria's role as the listener is to show enthusiasm. She would respond with, "Oh my gosh, what? Tell me everything." When Anna shares the news, "I got the promotion," Maria's reaction is key. She needs to match Anna's excitement. She could say, "No way. That's amazing news. Congratulations." Or, "Wow, I'm so happy for you. You totally deserve it." Phrases like, "I'm so happy for you" are essential for showing support. She should also ask follow-up questions to show she's genuinely interested, like, "So when do you start the new role?" Or, "Are you going to celebrate?" This keeps the happy conversation going. Now, let's flip the coin and talk about sharing bad or disappointing news. This requires a much more delicate touch. Let's imagine a different character, Sam, who was hoping to get tickets to his favorite band's concert, but they sold out before he could buy them. He's talking to his friend, Dave. Sam wouldn't start the conversation cheerfully. His tone of voice would be lower. He might say, "Hey, you got a minute? I'm a bit bummed out." The phrase "a bit bummed out" is a very common and informal way to say you're sad or disappointed. This signals to Dave that the topic is serious. Dave, as a good friend, would pick up on this cue. He wouldn't say, "What's up?" in a cheerful voice. He'd match Sam's tone and say, "Yeah, of course." "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" This shows concern. Sam can then explain, "Well, you know those concert tickets I was trying to get? They sold out in like 5 minutes. I didn't get them." Now, Dave's reaction is very important. He shouldn't try to solve the problem immediately by saying, "Just buy them online from someone else." First, he needs to show empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. He could say, "Oh man, that's such a bummer. I'm so sorry." Or, "Ugh, that's awful. I know how much you were looking forward to that." Phrases like, "That's such a bummer," "That's terrible," or "That's awful" validate the other person's feelings. They show that you understand why they are upset. After showing empathy, Dave can then offer support. He might say, "Is there anything I can do?" Or, "Hey, how about we go out for a burger tonight to take your mind off it?" Offering a distraction can be a kind way to help a friend who's feeling down. Notice the difference. With good news, you match the excitement and celebrate. With bad news, you match the serious tone and show empathy and support. Being able to navigate both types of conversation is a sign of a truly advanced and emotionally aware communicator. Think about a time you shared news with someone. How did they react? How did it make you feel? Your reactions to others are just as important as the words you say. One of the things that makes native speakers sound so natural is their ability to tell short, engaging stories or anecdotes in the middle of a conversation. An anecdote is just a short, amusing, or interesting story about a real incident or person. These little stories are what make conversations memorable and fun. They are not long, complicated tales. They're usually just a minute or two long, but they add so much personality to your speech. Let's imagine a group of friends are chatting about their weekends. One of them, Lucy, says her weekend was pretty funny. Her friends will immediately ask, "Oh yeah, what happened?" This is her cue to tell her anecdote. The key to a good anecdote is setting the scene simply and then building up to the main event, which is often something unexpected or funny. Lucy might start, "So, I was at the supermarket yesterday just doing my weekly shopping, right?" She starts with the basic setting, where she was and what she was doing. The word "so" is a very common way to begin a story. The tag right is used to check that her listeners are following along. She continues, "And I was in the cereal aisle trying to decide between two different kinds of granola. I was totally focused, reading the ingredients on the boxes." Here, she's adding a little detail to paint a picture for her listeners. They can imagine her standing there, seriously considering her cereal choices. Now comes the unexpected part. All of a sudden, this little kid, he must have been about 4 years old, drives his tiny shopping cart right into my legs. The phrase "all of a sudden" is perfect for introducing a surprise event. She continues, and he looks up at me with these big, serious eyes and says, "Excuse me, you are in the way of my racetrack." The punchline, or the funny part of the story, is the child's serious and unexpected comment. Lucy's friends would laugh at this point. To finish the story, Lucy would describe her reaction. "I was so surprised, I just burst out laughing. His mom came running over, looking so embarrassed, but it honestly made my day." The phrase, "it made my day," is a lovely idiom that means something made you feel very happy. Notice the structure of her short story. First, she set the scene, supermarket. Second, she described the build-up, choosing cereal. Third, she introduced the unexpected event, the kid with the cart. Fourth, she delivered the punchline, the racetrack comment. And finally, she shared her reaction laughing. This is a simple but effective formula for telling any short anecdote. You can use it to talk about something funny that happened at work, a strange coincidence you experienced, or a sweet moment with a pet. To make your stories more engaging, you can use narrative linkers like "so," and then, "all of a sudden," in the end. You can also use vivid words. Instead of "a kid hit me," she said, "he drives his tiny shopping cart right into my legs." It creates a much better image. I want to encourage you to start thinking about the little stories that happen in your own life. The next time you're in a conversation, try to share one. It doesn't have to be perfectly told. The point is to practice. Start with, "The funniest thing happened to me the other day," and see where it takes you. This is how you move from just exchanging information to truly connecting and entertaining the people you talk to. We've talked about how to start conversations and how to keep them going, but knowing how to end a conversation gracefully is an equally important skill. You don't want to seem rude by cutting someone off, but you also can't talk forever. There are many situations where you need to leave. Your lunch break is ending. You need to catch a bus, or you simply need to get back to what you were doing. Let's revisit our characters, Anna and Ben, the roommates. They are chatting in the kitchen, but Anna knows she has an online meeting in 10 minutes. She needs to wrap up the conversation. She won't just say, "I have to go now, bye." She'll use a signal phrase to prepare Ben that the end is coming. A great way to do this is to use a concluding phrase like, "well," or "anyway," followed by a reason for leaving. Anna could say, "Well, it was so good to catch up, but I've actually got to jump on a call in a few minutes." The phrase "jump on a call" is a common business casual way to say join a phone or video meeting. The word "actually" helps to soften the statement. Ben, hearing this signal, knows it's time to end the conversation. He would respond positively, "Oh, of course." "Don't let me keep you." "Don't let me keep you" is a very polite phrase that shows you understand the other person needs to go. Now they'll exchange final goodbyes. Anna might say, "We should definitely continue this later, though." This shows she enjoyed the conversation and wants to talk more in the future. Ben could reply, "For sure. Talk to you later." And Anna's final word might be, "Sounds good. Have a good meeting." Let's look at another scenario. Imagine you're at a party talking to someone, but you want to go and get a drink or talk to someone else. It can feel awkward to just walk away. You can use an excuse, which is a polite reason for leaving. You could say, "Well, it's been really great talking to you. I'm just going to go grab another drink before the bar closes." This gives a clear, polite reason for your departure. Another classic is, "Excuse me, I just saw my friend over there and I haven't said hi to her all night. It was lovely to meet you. And of course, the bathroom is always a useful excuse. If you'll excuse me, I'm just going to use the restroom." In any of these cases, the other person will understand completely and will say something like, "Okay, nice talking to you," or "Enjoy the rest of the party." The key is to be warm, smile, and make it clear you enjoyed the interaction before you state your reason for leaving. Don't just disappear. Always close the loop politely. Think about a recent conversation you had that ended. How did it end? Did it feel natural or abrupt? Practicing these exit lines will make you feel much more in control and confident in social situations. Now, I want to talk about something that might be the biggest secret to sounding natural in English. It's something that learners are often taught to avoid, but that native speakers use all the time. I'm talking about filler words and hesitation sounds. These are the little sounds and words we use when we are thinking about what to say next. In school, you might have been told that saying or is bad. But in reality, if you speak with absolutely no pauses or fillers, you can sound like a robot. These little words are part of the natural rhythm of speech. They give your brain a moment to catch up with your mouth. The most common ones are and We use them when we are searching for a word or idea. For example, if someone asks, "What's your favorite movie?" You might reply, "That's a tough one. I guess my favorite movie is, The Shawshank Redemption." That is completely natural. It shows you're thinking. Another incredibly common filler word, especially in American English, is like. This word has many uses, but as a filler, it's often inserted into sentences when a person is thinking or trying to formulate their thoughts. A teenager might say, "So I was walking to the store and I saw the craziest thing." While using like too much can make you sound a bit young or informal, using it occasionally is very common. For example, "It was a really good concert, but it was a little too loud for me." It's just a pause filler. Another one is "you know." We often use "you know" to check if the listener is following us, or to fill a pause when we're assuming the listener shares some common knowledge. For example, "When you get on the subway in the morning, it's so crowded, you know." It creates a sense of connection. The word "well" is another useful one. We often use it at the beginning of a sentence to give ourselves a moment to think before answering a question, especially a difficult one. If someone asks, "So, what did you think of my presentation?" and you thought it was just okay, you might start with, Well, I think you had some really strong points, especially at the beginning. The well signals a thoughtful and perhaps complex response is coming. Finally, there are little phrases we use to buy time, like "let me see," "how should I put it," or "the thing is." If your boss asks for your opinion on a new project, instead of sitting in silence while you think, you can say, "let me see." I think the overall concept is good, but I have some concerns about the timeline. These phrases are your best friends when you are speaking a foreign language. They give you a precious few seconds to find the right words without the conversation grinding to a halt in awkward silence. I want to be very clear. The goal is not to fill your speech with these words. The goal is to understand that they are a natural part of spoken English and to allow yourself to use them sometimes. Don't be afraid of them. If you need a moment to think, it is much more natural to say, than to just stay silent. I encourage you to listen for these filler words the next time you watch a movie in English or listen to a podcast. Notice how often native speakers use them. Recognizing this will help you feel more relaxed and natural in your own speech. We have spent a lot of time today talking about what you should say, but being a great conversationalist is not just about talking. It's just as much, if not more, about listening. I'm talking about active listening. Active listening is not just hearing the words someone is saying. It's about showing them that you are truly engaged, interested, and understanding them. This is what makes people feel valued and what makes them want to talk to you more. One of the simplest forms of active listening is using small, encouraging sounds and words as the other person is talking. Words like, uh-huh, yeah, right, okay, and sounds like, Let's imagine your friend is telling you a story about their bad day. As they're talking, you can sprinkle in these little words. So the train was late. Uh-huh. And then my boss was in a bad mood. Oh, right. So the whole morning was just really stressful. I see. These small interjections show that you are following along without interrupting their story. The next level of active listening is to use short phrases that show your reaction to what they're saying. If they share good news, you can say, "Wow, that's great," or "How exciting." If they share bad news, you can use the empathy phrases we discussed earlier like, "Oh no, that's terrible," or "I'm so sorry to hear that." If they say something surprising, you can say, "Really?" or "You're kidding me." These reactions prove that you are not just hearing the words, but you are processing the emotion behind them. A very powerful active listening technique is to ask follow-up questions. When someone tells you something, asking a relevant question shows you want to know more. If your friend says, "I'm thinking of taking a trip to Italy next year," a poor listener might just say, "Oh, cool," and change the subject. An active listener would ask follow-up questions. "Oh, wow. Italy? Whereabouts are you thinking of going?" Or "Have you been before?" Or "What time of year are you planning to go?" These questions open up the conversation and allow the other person to share more details about something they are excited about. Finally, one of the most advanced active listening techniques is called reflecting or paraphrasing. This is when you briefly summarize what the other person has said in your own words to make sure you understood correctly. Let's say your colleague is explaining a problem with a project. They talk for a few minutes about deadlines, budget issues, and a lack of resources. To show you were listening, you could say, "Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, The main issue is that we don't have enough time or money to get this done properly. Is that right? This does two amazing things. First, it confirms that you have understood the problem correctly. Second, it makes your colleague feel completely heard and understood, which is a powerful way to build trust and rapport. Being a good listener is like giving a gift to the person you are talking to. It makes them feel important. And the secret is, the better listener you are, the less pressure there is on you to talk all the time. People will come away from a conversation with you thinking, wow, what a great person to talk to, even if you spent most of the time just listening actively. So I encourage you to practice this. In your next conversation, try to focus more on listening than on speaking. Use encouraging sounds, ask follow-up questions, and see how it changes the dynamic of the conversation. As we draw towards the end of our journey today, I want to bring everything together and leave you with some final thoughts and a clear call to action. We have covered so much ground, from the simple art of saying hello on the street to making plans, ordering coffee, sharing news, disagreeing politely, and even the tiny filler words that add rhythm to our speech. The common thread connecting all of these topics is that chatting like a native is less about having a perfect vocabulary and more about understanding the flow, the culture, and the music of conversation. It's about making other people feel comfortable, heard, and engaged. It's about connection, not perfection. You might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all these new phrases and techniques. And that's okay. I don't expect you to remember and use all of them tomorrow. The goal of today was to open your eyes and ears to the real way English is spoken every day. It was to give you a toolbox of options to choose from, so you can slowly start to incorporate them into your own speech. The most important thing you can do now is to start paying attention. When you watch a TV show, listen to how the characters make plans. When you listen to a podcast, notice the filler words the host uses. When you have a chance to speak with a native speaker, listen to how they react to good news or bad news. Become an active observer of language. But observation alone is not enough. You must practice. Language is a skill, like playing the piano or learning to swim. You can't learn it just by reading about it. You have to do it. So here is my challenge to you. I want you to pick just one thing we talked about today and focus on practicing it this week. Just one. Maybe your goal will be to stop answering, "How was your day?" with "good." You'll practice the formula of a general feeling plus a specific detail. Or maybe your goal will be to use a polite phrase to disagree with someone, like, "I see your point, but I feel that." Or perhaps you will focus on active listening, consciously asking more follow-up questions in your next conversation. Choose one small, manageable goal. Write it down and actively look for opportunities to practice it. Don't worry about making mistakes. Every native speaker you admire made thousands of mistakes on their way to fluency. Mistakes are not a sign of failure. They are a sign that you are trying, that you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And that is where all growth happens. Remember the stories and characters we created today. Chloe and Liam at the movies, Maya at the cafe, Anna and Ben at home. They are just like you, navigating the small, everyday interactions that make up a life. The language they use is not out of reach. It is yours for the taking, with a little bit of awareness and a lot of practice. Thank you so much for joining me, Jessica, here on English in Advance. It has been a true pleasure to share this time with you. I hope you feel inspired and empowered to take your English conversation skills to the next level. If you found this episode helpful, please consider subscribing to our podcast so you don't miss out on future lessons. And I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment and tell me which one of these tips you are going to practice this week. Sharing your goal is a great way to stay accountable. Keep listening, keep speaking, and remember that every single conversation is an opportunity to learn and grow. You are capable of becoming a confident, natural, and engaging English speaker. Until next time, take care and happy chatting.